Hello, my name is Sami, and I'm from a small town in America you've probably never heard of. I'm 30 years old and not usually one to share personal experiences, especially those that have left me feeling uneasy. However, there's a story I've been carrying with me, one that I feel needs to be told. As I sit here, gathering my thoughts, there's a sense of discomfort I can't shake off. It's not just the unnerving nature of what happened, but also the realization that sharing this might change how you see the world. Quiet, unassuming corners of our everyday life. What I'm about to tell you might sound unbelievable, maybe even impossible, but every word of it is true. This story begins in an old house. A place I thought was my sanctuary, but turned out to be something else entirely. I live alone in this old house I inherited from my grandfather. It's a quiet place, surrounded by giant trees that block out the sounds of the outside world. I love the tranquility here. It gives me space to think and read. My huge library, filled with books I've collected over the years, is where I spend hours each day. I read everything from classic novels to the latest literary works. My job requires me to spend most of my time on the computer, which suits me perfectly. I'm not much of a socializer. I find comfort in my isolated daily routine. Today began like any other day. I woke up early, made my favorite coffee, and sat down to continue my work. But as evening approached, something unusual happened. While reading in my library, I heard knocks on the front door. This is rare as I don't expect visits. People here know I prefer to be left alone. I hesitated for a moment before deciding to get up and check. When I opened the door, I found a woman standing there. She was wearing a long coat and carrying a bag, claiming she was from the local mental support service and had come to offer help. I was confused as I hadn't requested such a service. But I didn't call anyone, I said firmly. However, she insisted, claiming someone was concerned about my well-being and had sent her. I tried to close the door, but she quickly intervened, pointing out the bad weather and insisting she only needed to talk for a few minutes. Eventually, I let her in, thinking she would leave once she realized I was fine. But as soon as she entered, I felt something was not right. I'm not used to welcoming strangers into my home, but something in her steady gaze and persistence made me hesitant to refuse her. After she entered, I closed the door behind her and followed her to the living room, dimly lit by the light of the reading lamp next to my favorite chair. The woman sat on the couch, placing her bag beside her. I noticed she was quickly glancing around the room, as if assessing the place or maybe looking for something. I felt a tension creeping through my body. I tried to appear calm. I haven't seen any of you before in this town. Are you new here? I asked, trying to understand her presence. She answered calmly but firmly. Yes, I recently moved to the area. I work with several people here, and your name came up as someone who might need our help. Oh. There was something disturbing about her speech. It was as if she knew more than she was saying. I thought about asking her who mentioned my name, but stopped, fearing the revelation that someone was discussing me without my knowledge. I tried to change the subject. Would you like something to drink? Coffee or tea? I asked, trying to break the tense atmosphere. No, thank you, she quickly replied. I'm just here to make sure you're okay. A moment of silence ensued. I felt uneasy and started thinking about ending the visit quickly. But before I could say anything else, she interrupted with an unexpected question. Sami, do you feel lonely here? The question made me defensive. No, I'm fine. I enjoy the quiet and solitude. But she didn't seem convinced. Sometimes solitude can be harmful, she said quietly, her eyes suggesting she was talking about more than just solitude. I started to feel worried. There was something unusual about her behavior and questions I felt she knew more than she was revealing. and at that moment I began to feel I had made a mistake by letting her in. At that moment, as she talked about helping me, I started to feel a strange tension creeping inside me. There was no apparent reason to feel threatened by a relatively weak-looking woman, but my instincts told me otherwise. I slowly retreated toward the kitchen, where I knew there were tools that might help me in an emergency. "I think you should leave now," I said in a more assertive tone. At that moment, she changed her expression and revealed a more dangerous side. "Oh, Sami, you don't understand. I've come to teach you a lesson you won't forget." My heart started to race. I began to feel something very sinister about this woman. I reached the kitchen and pretended to look for something to drink, but my eyes were searching for a knife. She stood at the kitchen door, watching me with sharp eyes. "Don't even think about it, Sami. I'm not here to hurt you, but if you try anything, I won't hesitate to defend myself." She was holding something in her hand, something I couldn't see clearly, but it looked like a sharp tool. I felt terror coursing through my veins. "What do you want from me?" I asked her, trying to stay calm. "I want you to listen," she said slowly. "There are things you need to know about yourself and about this house." Her words made me freeze. Did she know something about the mysterious past of this house? Or about secrets of my family that had been hidden from me? She approached me with heavy steps, and I stood there, frozen, unable to decide my next move. At that tense moment, I heard knocks on the front door. Startled, I looked at the woman standing in front of me. I noticed a change in her expression. She seemed to be expecting this moment. "That must be him," she said with a tone of satisfaction. "Who is that?" I asked, my voice trembling, trying to understand what was happening. She didn't answer but headed towards the door. I followed her cautiously, trying to think of a plan to deal with whatever might happen. She opened the door and a tall, strong-looking man entered. He was wearing a heavy coat and carrying a large bag. "Sami, this is my friend. He's come to help us, resolve some matters with you." I composed myself and tried to show confidence, despite feeling afraid. "What do you want from me?" The man, who hadn't introduced himself yet, looked at me with serious eyes. "We have some questions for you, Sami. Very important questions." He placed his bag on the floor and opened it. Inside, I saw strange tools and some papers. I felt increasing panic inside me. What were they planning? "We won't hurt you if you cooperate," the woman said calmly. I tried to keep calm and asked, "What are these questions? And why do you think I have the answers?" "It's all about this house and your family's history. There are things you need to know, and things we need to know from you." I felt puzzled and afraid. What did they know about the house and my family? And how did they learn about these secrets? The man started pulling out some papers from the bag and placed them on the table. There were old pictures of the house and some documents that looked like legal papers. "Let's start with some basic facts," said the man, looking at me with eyes that suggested he was not joking. Suddenly, without warning, the man pulled out a gun from the bag. "Nothing bad will happen if you agree to cooperate," he said in a warning tone. The woman, who stood by his side, pointed to the papers on the table. "All we want is your signature on this document. It's just a waiver of the house." "Why?" I shouted, feeling helpless and scared. "What will make you leave me alone?" "It's simple, Sami. Just sign, and everything will end here." I adamantly refused. "No, I won't sign anything. This house is mine." As I refused, the man approached me, and without hesitation, tied me tightly to the chair in the room. His movements were swift and precise, as if he had planned this in advance. Once I was tied up, he took the gun and placed it next to my head. "Think again, Sami." "Don't make things harder," he said with the gun next to my head. My heart was beating at an indescribable rate. I was completely overtaken by fear. But deep down, there was a resolve not to give in. This house was all I had left of my family, and I wouldn't give it up easily. "I won't sign," I declared. The woman looked at the man with eyes full of concern. "Maybe we should use another method." The man started rummaging through the bag again. This time he pulled out something that looked like a torture device, wires and electrical tools. I felt terror seep into every part of my body. What were they planning to do? "Please don't do this. What do you really want?" I screamed, trying to understand. The woman connected the wires to a small electrical device. Sometimes extreme measures are necessary to get what we want. As she approached me with the wires, I closed my eyes, wishing this was all just a nightmare. In that terrifying moment when my hands were tied, and the man and woman were preparing to torture me, something unexpected happened. The lights in the house suddenly went out, causing chaos and confusion. I took advantage of this confusion to try and untie the ropes binding me. Thanks to the pitch darkness, I couldn't see what I was doing. After a few tense minutes, I miraculously managed to untie the ropes binding my hands. My heart was pounding incredibly fast, and every cell in my body was screaming for me to escape. I quietly crept towards the front door, trying not to make any noise. My breath was ragged, and every step I took seemed like it could be my last. I reached the door, opened it quietly, and burst out, heading towards the dense forest surrounding the house. The forest was dark and scary, but my fear of the man and woman was much greater. I ran with all my might, ignoring the branches scratching my face and arms. Adrenaline was coursing through my veins, and all I could think about was survival. After a few minutes of frantic running, I took out my mobile phone while panting from exhaustion. The signal was weak, but I finally managed to call the police. I quickly explained what happened and gave them my home address, trying to remain as calm as possible. "Please, hurry! There are 2 people in my house trying to kill me!" I shouted into the phone. After ending the call, I continued running through the forest, trying to get as far away from the house as possible. The darkness surrounded me on all sides, and the sounds of the forest seemed terrifying in the late hour of the night. Suddenly, I heard footsteps behind me. My heart froze with fear. Were they following me? I ran faster, but the footsteps were getting closer and closer. At that moment, I felt all hope was lost. And in that crucial moment, I heard the sound of police cars approaching. The blue and red lights began to twinkle from afar, piercing the darkness of the forest. As I approached the road, police cars intercepted me. The officers rushed out of their cars, armed and ready to confront any danger. They stopped me and quickly asked for details. While trying to catch my breath, I gave them a brief explanation of what happened. "Inside the house, there's a man and a woman. They tried to kill me," I stammered, my voice faltering. The officers listened to me intently and then immediately headed towards the house. I stayed with another officer who asked me to remain to identify the attackers if they were caught. Not long after, the officers came out of the house with nothing. There was no trace of the man or woman. The officer who was with me seemed frustrated. "We didn't find anyone inside the house, Mr. Sami. Are you sure about your story?" I felt frustrated and puzzled. "Yes, I'm sure. They tried to kill me." The officers examined the house for any evidence. They found the ropes that had bound me and some unidentified fingerprints. But there was no other evidence of the man and woman's presence. "We will continue the investigation," said the officer. "But for now, we advise you not to stay alone in this house." After the police left, I stood there alone, surrounded by the eerie silence of the house. Questions began to pile up in my mind. Who were these people? And why did they target me? Did it have something to do with the history of the house or my family? The night was filled with restlessness and tension. Every sound in the house made me jump. I didn't know if the police fully believed my story, or if they thought I was imagining things. In the following days, the police continued their investigations without any conclusive results. Neither the woman nor the man was found. No new evidence emerged to indicate their presence. All that remained was the mystery and unanswered questions. And so, I remained alone in the house, surrounded by secrets and shadows that had yet to find their way to the light. Everything that happened seemed like a strange nightmare I couldn't wake up from. But the evidence was there to remind me that it was all real. At least for me. This experience has left me questioning everything I thought I knew about my home, my family, and even my own sanity. The memories of that night linger in every corner of the house, making me wonder if I will ever feel safe again. But one thing is certain. I am determined to uncover the truth, no matter how dark or unsettling it may be. This house holds secrets, and I will find them, even if it takes me the rest of my life.